Has Ian any different than your past opponents? Because obviously he's very tall, he's very rangy, he can make the fight slow if he wants to. What do you make of his skill set?
His skills, I just have to run in this camp too much because I have to follow him because he runs too much. I know his game plan. We always see his fight, and he has same style always. But I will try to catch him, take him down, just what I did with my all opponents.
So where does fear sit then? Because I look at Makhachev. He's had 5-round title fights. He's defended belts. He's moved weight classes. He's beaten champions. You've never fought for a UFC world title.
Nope.
This is the guy that's done it all against the guy doing it for the very first time.
Yes.
There must be fear.
I mean, no. Because it's not fear. I'm not afraid of anything. I don't know how I would word it in regards to fear, because it's not fear.
What was it Tom Aspinall told us about fear going into a fight? Can you remember?
Tom had that.
I'm pretty sure I've heard Tom say, like, everybody's afraid. It's how you manage fear.
Yeah, it's the
Something along
custom
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely, like, I'm not afraid. There's nothing I see him doing that I'm afraid of. There's nothing I think of him doing that I'm afraid of. I chose to do this sport for a living. I chose to get into MMA. I wanted to be a world champion. I wanted to prove I was one of the best in the world. And I have to do that by beating some of the best in the world.
So Islam almost trying to challenge his ego to make him fight the fight that would suit him. It's obviously smart on Islam's behalf, because at the end of the day, I believe and I think that Islam's team would be smart enough to understand that this is going to be a very difficult fight, or has the potential to be a very difficult fight. Because through it all, right, Garry is a very big guy for the weight class, very tall, very agile, and can move around for 25 minutes if need be, which could cause issues for Islam. He'll be a shorter fighter in the octagon this time, and Garry won't be stationary standing in front of him. It is a very hard fight.
Every dominant champion eventually reaches a moment where everything is on the line. For Islam Makhachev, that moment may have finally arrived. Ian Garry believes he's the man destined to end Islam's reign, and the MMA world couldn't be more divided. Some fans expect another flawless performance from the Dagestani champion, while others believe Garry has the style to pull off one of the biggest upsets in recent UFC history. When analysts began discussing how Ian Garry should prepare for Islam Makhachev, one thing became obvious almost immediately: wrestling. Everyone agrees that defending Islam's relentless takedowns has to be priority number one. That's much easier said than done, though. Makhachev has built his reputation by dragging elite fighters into deep waters and completely taking over once the fight hits the mat. But despite that challenge, several experts believe Garry brings something unique that many of Islam's previous opponents simply didn't have. The biggest talking point is Garry's size. At welterweight, he's a naturally bigger athlete with a long frame, awkward movement, and an unpredictable striking style. He doesn't always fight with textbook technique, and that's exactly what makes him dangerous. His unusual rhythm can make it difficult for opponents to time their attacks, and that unpredictability could force Islam into situations he hasn't had to deal with very often. It's a style that's frustrating to fight against because you never quite know what's coming next. Even with those physical advantages, nobody is underestimating the champion. Islam has earned his reputation through years of discipline, constant improvement, and a complete skill set that leaves almost no weaknesses to exploit. That's why so many experts believe this fight is one of the most compelling stylistic matchups the UFC has made in years. It's the classic battle between relentless pressure and elusive movement, and whoever manages to impose their game first could control the entire fight. One of the biggest debates surrounding Ian Garry is his movement inside the octagon. Supporters call it intelligent footwork. Critics call it running. There's a huge difference between the two. Smart movement keeps your opponent guessing and creates openings to counter. Running, on the other hand, suggests you're trying to avoid the fight altogether. It's a debate that's followed Garry throughout his career, and now it's become one of the biggest storylines heading into this championship clash. Islam Makhachev didn't hesitate when asked about Garry's style. According to the champion, if Garry wants to keep moving backward, he'll chase him for all 5 rounds without hesitation. But that comment surprised several analysts, including Chael Sonnen. Sonnen admitted he'd never watched Garry and felt like he was simply running away from opponents. In his eyes, Garry has always used movement as a calculated weapon to control distance, not as a way to avoid exchanges. That leaves an interesting possibility. Either Islam genuinely sees something others have missed, or he's already playing mind games before they even step inside the cage. There's another reason this fight has captured so much attention. Whenever a champion looks nearly unbeatable, fans naturally start searching for the one fighter who can finally crack the code. Islam Makhachev has looked almost untouchable during his rise to the top, and that's exactly why people are fascinated by Ian Garry's chances. But before anyone starts talking about shocking knockouts or miracle moments, Garry has to answer the biggest question in mixed martial arts. Can he stop the takedowns? Because if he can't, nothing else may even matter. The moment Islam gets his hands locked together, the entire fight changes. That's why analysts believe Garry's greatest weapon won't just be his striking, it will be his cardio. By constantly moving, forcing Islam to work for every takedown, and making every wrestling exchange as exhausting as possible, Garry hopes to drag the champion into unfamiliar territory. If he can stretch the fight into the championship rounds while keeping the pace high, he might finally create the kind of chaos that no one has been able to create against Islam before. And that's where the mystery begins. Chael Sonnen believes something doesn't quite add up. Either Garry really does spend more time backing up than most fans realize, or Islam isn't revealing his true game plan. One of those assumptions has to be wrong. The only question is, which one? And we won't get that answer until the cage door finally closes. As the conversation continued, Chael Sonnen couldn't shake the feeling that something about Islam Makhachev's comments didn't add up. Either Islam was oversimplifying Ian Garry's style to get inside his head, or everyone else had been misunderstanding Garry's movement this whole time. Sonnen admitted he could go back and rewatch Garry's fights, but from what he remembered, Garry wasn't the type of fighter who simply ran away. He used distance intelligently, picked his moments carefully, and forced opponents to chase him on his terms. That strategy may sound simple, but against someone like Islam Makhachev, it could become surprisingly effective. Garry's long reach and constant movement have frustrated elite opponents before. Just look at his fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Even though Garry didn't walk away with the win, he showed that disciplined footwork and smart distance management could make life difficult for one of the most feared fighters in the division. If he can recreate that performance against Islam, this title fight could become far more competitive than many fans expect. According to Sonnen, that's exactly where the danger lies for the champion. If Garry commits to a patient game of stick and move, forcing Islam to chase instead of controlling the center of the octagon, the champion's usual rhythm could be disrupted. Makhachev thrives when he's dictating the pace, backing opponents toward the fence, and chaining together takedowns. But if Garry refuses to stand still and keeps making Islam reset over and over again, every failed shot could slowly drain the champion's energy. Of course, while everyone is focused on the tactical battle, there's another storyline quietly growing in the background: Islam Makhachev's legacy. For many analysts, this isn't just another title defense. This could be the victory that permanently changes where his name belongs in MMA history. A win over Ian Garry wouldn't simply add another defense to his resume. It would strengthen the argument that Islam deserves to stand alongside the greatest fighters the sport has ever seen. One analyst believes this fight represents the exact turning point in that discussion. In his view, another championship victory would push Islam into the same conversations as Jon Jones and Georges St-Pierre. For years, fans have debated who truly deserves the title of the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Some put Jon Jones at the top. Others argue for GSP. A few even believe Demetrius Johnson deserves far more recognition than he receives. But after everything Islam has accomplished, another dominant win could force the MMA world to rethink that entire list. The analyst even admitted that his own rankings almost never change. For nearly a decade, Georges St-Pierre has remained locked near the very top of his GOAT list, with only Jon Jones placed above him. Yet he believes this fight could finally change that. If Islam defeats Ian Garry convincingly, he would move Makhachev ahead of GSP for the first time, a statement that shows just how significant this title defense has become. That's what makes the stakes so fascinating. Ian Garry isn't only fighting for his first UFC championship, he's standing directly in the path of history. If he somehow pulls off the upset, he'll instantly become the man who stopped one of the greatest championship runs the sport has ever seen. But if Islam wins once again, he won't just leave with the belt still around his waist. He may leave as a fighter whose legacy can no longer be ignored in the greatest of all time conversation. And that's exactly why this matchup feels so much bigger than just one title fight. For Garry, it's the opportunity to shock the world. For Islam Makhachev, it's the chance to move one step closer to immortality.